Hi, welcome to Turn-Based Besties, a podcast where two grown adults with no free time talk about their favorite RPGs. I'm DJ.
And I'm Sam, and we're besties that love to game.
We do. Sam, I'm sorry to you and to our thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners that we have on this podcast that
Millions.
millions, I might sound a little under-energized because I just got my COVID vaccine last night
Oh.
and I can't lift my arm and I felt like utter dookie all day.
Oh no.
Yeah, so if I'm not my usual effervescent self, that's the reason why. It's not because I hate Sam. Or maybe it is.
It's probably that. Well, I'm so sorry. That sucks. Well,
Nah, it's
have they
cool.
have they have most of them affected you like this kind of like a day of crumminess or what's it been?
The very first one did, but that's because I got the J&J, which was basically like, sticking me with a needle in the backside of a garage or something. But like no, none of the rest have really done anything. But yeah, I
And this one did.
feel a little
Has it been a long
shapoopy.
time since your last one maybe?
Almost
No.
a year to the date.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess what is it? This is just an immune response, so it's working, right?
There you go.
There you go. I just got a really strong immune system, so
Nobody switched it out.
be jealous, really, with my swole immune system. I'm so strong.
So swole you can't lift your arm.
I'm so strong.
Well, that
Oh,
stinks. Well, I hope you feel better tomorrow. Normally, you should probably be better by tomorrow.
I'll probably
We'll
be
see.
okay. What have you been up to?
Not too much. We did have some folks over a couple nights ago, and we played a D&D Dungeons and Dragons one shot with a few new folks. Well, we know them, but new to playing that game with us. And I was the dungeon master, the game master, and we played a pirate themed game, and that was a lot of fun.
The photo you sent me looked so awesome. Like you should post that to our TBB Instagram
Oh,
because
maybe I should. Yeah, should I just
the
post it?
boats were so cool. Yeah.
The boat's pretty cool. I mean, it's not like it. I mean, I made it out of literal popsicle sticks, dowel rods, paper, and a T-shirt that I cut into the sails.
The boats are so cool.
And then yeah, and then it was the first time I had used an old TV screen and projected maps onto that too. So that made it a lot easier. I didn't have to print everything out. I could just project it, which is kind of nice.
I
So
bet
it was
they were
cool. It was
cool.
fun. We had a good time,
Nice.
and I think we might be playing with those folks again in the future. So if they're listening to this, shout out to that D&D crew from the Pirate One Shot.
Do they like it? Do they have
A
fun?
Pirate's Life Are We. That's what I named it. Maybe
Nice.
it's not that clever. Maybe somebody else has probably said that before. They loved it. They seemed to love it. I had written kind of everything myself. I looked up a few one shots that were pirate themed, but then I didn't like them as much, so I kind of just made my own, and they seemed to really like it. And oh, that's the thing I was going to tell you.
What?
So you know how like most folks who it's their very first time playing D&D just are, you're going to be more timid. You're going to be not as into it. You're not going to
Yeah,
just dive in,
for
right?
sure.
So I ended up making most of their characters, like creating the character sheet. Well, then they just had to make their own character name. Well, we get there and I'm like, introduce your character name and whatever. Every single one of them had a backstory, had like a
Oh.
reason they were there that they were excited to share. And half of them had voices they did and everything. And their very first time.
Oh,
It was
that's got to make
great.
you feel that makes it feel like all the work you did is worth it then.
Oh, it was fantastic. Oh no, yeah, that's exactly what you want. Because I'm gonna sound stupid doing voices because I think it's fun.
Yeah.
But they were doing it too, and I was just like, I was in shock because I was not expecting I guess not mostly first timers, but several first timers to show up with so much forethought into their characters. So it was great.
You do such a good job at DMing. We are so lucky that we have you and Jake, our friend Jake, for listeners out there who both do an awesome job DMing. Like we spoiled riches with two folks.
Well, Jake's got all the real skills. Jake knows all the lore. I just work hard and make up something new that I think is fun. But Jake's got, I feel like the ability, the natural and time given ability from learning everything over the years.
That I mean,
But
and
yeah,
he's been playing for. I mean, no exaggeration. He's been playing for more than 20 years.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's why he's got the chops. I'm fledgling, but I appreciate the compliment. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that was fun. And then the only other thing I was going to bring up was Jay. Um, he's a little turd nowadays, and
Uh-oh.
he hears things at school,
Yeah.
and says stuff. And do we curse? We can curse. We don't curse.
We can
I
cur-
won't curse.
we can
So
curse. You can say the curse word.
so
It's
I'm
fine.
changing them though. I'm changing Jay's, pull up. We're
Yeah.
gonna potty train him soon.
Yeah.
And he looks up at me. This is after he got back from school, and he
Yeah.
just goes, effing man, but he says the actual F word, and
Oh,
he's got this smirk on his face. He just goes, effing man,
that's
effing man. And he keeps saying it. He's never said this before. And he's got this smirk. He knows he's supposed to get a reaction. Something has happened at school that day that he
mm-hmm.
learned this word and he's gonna get the reaction. But I know that, and I know how
Mm-hmm.
they respond if you give, them any sort of kindling to the fire here. And so I just had to go completely stone face,
Yeah.
just nothing, give him nothing at all, right?
And
And
he
so,
said
and he
no.
kept going. He said it about like 12 times and kept trying to get it out of me. And then he started saying booty butt, which is another thing that they say, which is much more 3-year-old age appropriate.
Yes.
So then I leaned into that and said, I normally don't. I normally also give that nothing. But this time I needed to replace effing man with booty butt. I needed to replace it very badly. So I was like, no, don't say that, Jay. Don't you do that. And it worked. And then he was all excited to say booty butt. So then we we stepped back from the effing man ledge and stepped up to the booty butt one again. And so we'll live with that. But
That's
it's yeah.
so that's so cute. That's not the swear word I thought we were going to when you said you were like changing his pants or something. I was like, oh, we're gonna hear the S word or something, shoot or crap. But
Well, he
no,
doesn't know
effing
the
man.
context of any of this, so it's not gonna make sense in the situation.
I guess that's true. How old is he? Like three? No,
Three.
two, three. Okay,
He's three.
yeah, yeah. I
Again,
didn't know
he
the
should be
context of
potty
that.
trained. He's not quite there.
Oh,
It's been a
whatever.
struggle.
It's fine.
Anyway. But yes, so that is the stuff that's going on. Anything else except for you feeling crummy from the shot? Any other news
Um,
in
uh,
DJ land?
huge news over here. I ordered a cool water cup from the TikTok shop, and it is this, and it's all the
Oh,
'90s McDonald's like bags for Halloween, and it's
oh,
my
that's what
spooky
they
glass.
are.
Yeah, isn't it so cute?
That is cute. Wait, what is the TikTok shop?
It's just um, a shop on TikTok. Some folks, some creators are like, "Hey, my shop is linked below. Click on it if you want." And sometimes I'll click and just see
Oh, and
like,
it's
it's
not their own place. It's just actually TikTok has its own marketplace. That's
yeah, and
interesting.
like it's kind of like a seller, an individual seller. Think of it like Etsy. Like Etsy owns
No, that
Etsy,
makes
but then
sense.
different sellers can sell things on there. Yeah, it's the same with TikTok. I've ordered two things now from TikTok, and I've not lost my identity yet, so
Oh, nice.
it's gonna be okay, I think.
I shouldn't be surprised. That makes total sense.
I think
Um,
right.
you have to sell
Um,
things when you do this. Speaking
so
of, oh, that's good though. Speaking of, I thought I've written personally my own one shots. Probably, well, that one campaign was like a 5-shotter, and I wrote
mhm.
that, and then a couple other one shots that I did myself. And um, I've considered putting them up on DM's Guild or some of the other ways you can publish them online, and
Yeah.
then we could just use our podcast to tell everybody to go buy them,
Oh.
and then I could make fives of dollars.
Ooh, fives of dollars. So you know what? If you make three of those fives of dollars, you can buy this
Ooh.
tumbler from the spooky tumbler. I should post this on
It is
our.
great. Yeah, you could post that to our Insta too.
It's so cute. I'm just drinking water out of it because feeling like Dookie face. But I'm gonna put like iced coffee in here later.
I think it looks great.
Think it
Well,
will.
great. Well, what are we talking about today though in the world of RPGs and podcasting?
Today we're doing another one of our top five episodes, which I find really exciting to do. And there's no end in sight of potential top five lists. And the more we game and the older we get, we'll probably return to some of these lists and say five more top five, so and so. So I'm super excited. This is our top five main characters. So not talking about a single class, but mostly who is the primary protagonist. Of course, there are some games that have multiple protagonists. So if that pops up on our list, then we're just picking our favorite protagonist from that game. So there you go.
I,
So
I think your timing over time changes is kind of very astute because it's interesting to look at the differences between us. You know,
mhm.
you being somebody that's gamed in RPGs a lot longer, you have a wider breadth of characters you're choosing from here and in all of our other top fives. And then most of mine are drawn from the same like 15 games that I've liked the most in the last couple of years, but that is okay.
Whatever.
But that's why you see the differences. But that's all right. That's why we have you to be kind of different, and then me to be I'll be standard and kind of keep hitting on the high notes of the games we've liked in the last few years.
Cool. Have it be known that I'm the different one on the podcast. Awesome.
It's exactly the way I meant that. Yep.
No, I know, I know. Well, speaking of being different, actually, I don't know where this is going. But let's jump into our top five main characters. Would you like me to go first, Sam?
Yeah, I think we do it like this. I kind of reordered it, I hope, and we go back and forth again like we have on the other episodes. And so
I think
you will go first, and then I will go, or I could go first.
I think it makes actually. I mean, I'm the different one, so I'm gonna go first because I'm different.
Do it.
Let's do it. My fifth place top five main character is Aurora from the video game Child of Light. So, this is your traditional turn based RPG. Aurora is a little girl who has just died and passed over into another world. Don't be too sad, it's really beautiful. She finds all of these fantastic creatures and humanoids to become party members that basically help her essentially heal the new world that she's found herself in. I'm being vague because not only do I want our listeners to play this amazing game, I think it'd be great for us to review this game at some point in the future. It's a quick sell. I think it's maybe 15 hours. Really pretty. I think you'd enjoy the combat system a lot.
It looks pretty. Yeah, I've seen it, and it's commonly on sale.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's what like a kind of like a timed turn based, like
yeah,
there's
it
like a
is.
timed mechanic to when you can attack or something.
Similar to the Grandia games, you can interrupt someone's turn, but they can also interrupt your turn as well and put you farther back on the timeline. Really fun. I always think of this game as a combination of having Return to Oz vibes, so the sequel to Wizard of Oz, the movie sequel rather, to Wizard of Oz that was filmed in the 80s, and it also has a little bit of Die Zauberflöte or Magic Flute vibes. And
Oh,
it really does. It even has a Queen of the Night in this, and it has a Papageno type character. So I don't think that was necessarily their intention, but yeah, it's kind of a combo of Return to Oz and Zauberflöte with poetry. The entire game rhymes. Like the entire game is a poem.
that's very operatic or opera like, right? Almost like
It is. It's almost like It's almost like you're reading a libretto or a play, a Shakespearean play. It's really beautiful how they weave it in, and it's usually not awkward. Usually not. But yeah, Aurora is the main character. I love that she starts out as this young, kind of spunky, slightly precocious little girl, and as the game goes on, she literally grows into an adult warrior woman.
oh,
She has I think out of all the my top five, I think she has the most heart out of anybody on the list. Her character design, all the character designs are this essentially 2D. It looks like they're kind of water painted or hand painted. It's really pretty. I love how when she is a little girl, she has a hard time holding up her sword at the end of each battle. She like puts it up above her head and then it falls behind her. And when she grows, it no longer falls.
does she
So
do it one handed by the end because she's so strong?
I think she does. I don't recall, but I think she does. She's just a really lovable main character. None of my characters are silent protagonists. So it's nice to have someone who is strong-willed, has her own lines. She's great with a sword. She's also one of your primary healers, which is kind of unique to have the main character also be the healer. And she can wield at least light magic. I think there are other types of magic that she can wield as well. She's a great all-arounder. You don't have to have her in your party, but I don't know why you wouldn't for the most part. You're not penalized for switching people
Huh. You
out.
don't have to have the protagonist in the main party.
No, as soon as you have more people
Huh.
in your party, you can switch her out. And it makes sense sometimes if you need two people who have other skills that maybe Aurora doesn't have, but she's fantastic. She's just a cool, lovable character, and I love her story. So I think we should play Child of Light eventually on the podcast next year, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So Aurora
I'm
from
down.
Child of Light is my number five. Sam, what
Number
is your
five.
number five?
For me, number five is Zagreus from Hades. So Hades is in general just a fantastic game. It does have very strong rogue or RPG elements in a roguelite. And then
Cool.
it actually has a really strong story that's interwoven into a roguelite each run. So it's not your classic roguelite in that sense that the story is so strong and so well told and received a lot of praise when it came out. But Zagreus is your protagonist. He is the prince of the underworld. So he's the son of Hades. He's
Ooh.
got this sarcastic wit. I'd say it's akin to Han Solo. He wears a short red robe with red gold leaf crown. It's very Greek. Um, Overall, though, he doesn't really believe that he or feel like he belongs in the underworld, and he's trying to escape. That's the whole thing. You're trying to get out of Hades, and maybe spoilery. I don't know enough about Greek mythology to know, but he finds out that his mother is Persephone, who thought he died at birth, but he didn't, and she ran away out of the underworld. So then he has this yearning later on when he figures this out to another reason to escape is that he needs to find his mother and tell her that he's alive and all these things. So it's a pretty heart-wrenching story there, and yeah, but he's a super likable character, and it is such a fun game. Anybody that's played Hades that likes that kind of game,
Mm-hmm.
action top down roguelike, it's fantastic.
Cool.
So
I don't want to put you on the spot here, so feel free to pass on this question. But to any of our listeners who may not exactly know what a roguelike RPG is, could you want to give like a one or two sentence explanation?
sure, I will try. So yeah, it is one that is not necessarily linear in the sense of one line beginning to end. You do have a story to be told, but you're telling it in runs. You're telling it in one attempt to finish a goal at a time. A lot of times it's climbing a tower or doing something, and the first time you attempt it, it's going to be impossibly hard. There's
Mm-hmm.
no way you're going to succeed for the most part. So I'm sure there's some people out there that could have the skills to do so, but primarily you're learning more about the game. You're also gaining some sort of points or currency or XP that will make you stronger through each run,
Cool.
so that eventually you are strong enough through strengthening of your character, leveling up, gaining new abilities, skills, those kind of things that you can finish the whole game.
Awesome.
I think Hades is kind of unique in the sense in how well they told the story at the same time, because how do you do that, like in different runs? When do you give the different story beats when they make it that far, when it's been a certain number of runs? How do you weave that in a way that keeps the story compelling? And I think that's why it was kind of so well received.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, so I think I might Google it later tonight just to like check it out. I've
Did it
heard you
win game of the year? It might have won game of the year that year, or it was at least up for it. It was right there.
probably. I mean, I've heard you mention it before. I've seen it on other people's lists. I think for me, if I'm not looking to branch out from turn-based, I probably won't go because it's not turn-based. Is that correct?
Not turn-based, no.
Yeah. If it's
Top
not
down
turn,
action.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably not the first thing I'd gravitate toward. But there are non-turn-based RPGs that I do gravitate towards, so I'll give it a
It
look,
doesn't
man.
feel like your type of game, BJ. I love you,
Well,
but it doesn't feel like it.
I could look at new games. The point of this podcast is also to broaden my horizons, so maybe I'll play it and like it. We'll
Okay, so
see.
yeah, 2020 it won. It was nominated for Game of the Year, but did not win. It won Best Indie and it won Best Action. Um, the British Academy Games Awards, it won Best Game. The GLAD Media Awards, it was nominated for Outstanding Video Game.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, a lot of different things that it was. Best Game Writing, the Nebula Award it won, the Hugo Award, Best Video Game Special Award it won.
Oh,
So
cool.
like, to win a writing award as a roguelike is kind of unheard of, I feel like.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'll watch a couple trailers this evening. Why not?
Do it.
We got some time,
But
but
I don't think it's up your alley to play it.
eh, maybe you'll convince me one day. Wink.
Am I gonna do? We're gonna do a.
Maybe. I don't
Well,
know.
we could do it with Hades too. Hades, remember that was one that I foreshadowed in
That's
our.
true.
So we'll do that. Let's do
That's
that.
true. Cool. Well, going on, my fourth place is Aya Bray from Parasite Eve.
What's
Aya
that?
Bray. What is that? Parasite Eve is also the game that you and I are playing for review for one of our spooky episodes for Halloween October. But even before we had decided that, Aya was on my list of top five characters for sure. So I love that it is this independent female character, independent, strong female protagonist, especially in the 90s, especially from a Squaresoft game where that wasn't really the popular thing yet. I mean, you had Terra from Final Fantasy VI, but Final Fantasy VI really is one of those games where like five or six of them could be the protagonist, so she's not the only one. But Aya is the only party member that you have in Parasite Eve. She is sure of herself, but she's still a rookie cop. So she is young and naive, and her decisions reflect that every once in a while. Her story with her sister is, I think, really organically mixed in beautifully with this overarching narrative. It's cool to see someone go from hating their powers that they were given to being grateful and then eventually taking back her autonomy and her power. Not trying to spoil anything. I know I just finished the game. I know you're still at the beginning, but you'll see how that plays into it. I This sounds so silly, but I also think it's cool that she uses real world weapons. In this case, she is a cop for the NYPD, so she uses guns and she uses clubs in addition to her like parasite magic powers that she has. I will say I think the game could use an upgrade, a remaster similar to what happened with Final Fantasy VIII. As the game models, while 3D, I, they're still charming. I know, Sam. They're charming for 1997 when you realize 1998 maybe when the game came out. I mean, it's over 20 years
The
old.
cutscenes look good.
The cutscenes look way better than I expected them to look. And I'm playing this on Steam Deck, so I have slightly enhanced graphics, but the faces sometimes when the faces are close up, they still look like a Picasso painting.
What faces?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I think Aya's really cool. I went back and forth actually between fourth and third place with her.
Uh,
I think it's really cool to have someone who was she could be an avatar. Like I could have seen them make her a silent protagonist, but I'm really glad that they didn't. Especially
yeah.
because she has that situation with her sister, which I don't think you know much about yet in your journey of
I've
the
not
game.
gotten to it, but now I'm intrigued. But I am
Yeah,
also going to tell her next time I play that you made her fourth and not third. So
I know.
be
Well,
aware.
she's
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
let her know.
she's so iconic. She really is an iconic Squaresoft, now Square Enix character. She has two other games, Parasite Eve 2 and then Parasite Eve the Third Birthday, which it really becomes more like a franchise and less like a sequel to sequel at that point. But
But the first one is the one that's really talked about, right?
I think yeah, I think the second one had really excellent reviews as well.
Hmm.
I've not played the second one for no other reason than I don't have it physically. So it's some game that I may just emulate in the future. Sorry, Nintendo, but I just might be what I do. But yeah, Parasite Eve is a game I am so thrilled to talk at greater length in October because it's a fabulous game with an awesome protagonist.
Well, perfect. Well, tune in for that episode,
Yeah.
listeners. So my number four, though, is 2B from Near Automata. So 2B is an android. That is one of the protagonist characters from Near Automata. So it is a sci-fi action RPG. The humans have kind of retreated to the moon in this, and these machine life forms have taken over Earth, and so then the androids are sent down to try to fight and take back the Earth over time. So visually, she looks um, pretty cool. It's a lot of black and white in the whole game, so she is very black and white tones, no color. Rather tropey, feminine JRPG characteristics. A little bob haircut. She's got really tall boots and some black stockings, high black stockings, a short black skirt, a lot of very feminine features. And then she's also got this cool black blindfold over her eyes. There's a lot of things that I really like about the story in general and about 2B. I just love sci-fi
Hmm.
myself, so anything with the sci-fi themes I love, and also androids and talking about consciousness of machine beings and all those things is something that's very much part of the plot that I love. Lots of themes of good versus evil, also when considering new intelligences and machine intelligences. Um, and then there's additionally this really interesting kind of relationship with the other android 9S who you're paired with. Apparently, there's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of unknowns at the beginning. You're given your orders from those above, and over time, it's revealed kind of what's happening. But you do know that 9S is your teammate android, and they're very curious and they try to figure things out. And then apparently, kind of over time, you do have to kind of sometimes cull them or take them out before they learn too much, and then they're reanimated in a new body and all these things. So it's like your one friend you're not that close to, because you have this somewhat adversarial relationship. So that struggle I thought was very interesting. But as a game though, it's fantastic. I need to play more in the near series because they are very interesting to me. But I like the action based. I like the sci-fi themes. I like that there's like multiple different endings. You kind of play through it several times to get the different endings, and I
Cool.
appreciate that. But it's a very thought provoking sci-fi game and character that I appreciated.
Great. I've heard only fantastic things about this series. So it's sh- this character is the only person that you play. Is that correct?
Um, no, I think you can play. I've played through it multiple times. I don't know if I've done every single ending.
Okay.
I want to say, okay, I don't know. I need to look this up. I want to say you play as 9S at some point, one of the other
Okay.
ones.
But your party is just you. There's just one
Yes.
person. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. And you have like a little floating bot that also shoots things, but basically it's just like a weapon of yours.
Just you. Cool. Awesome. Great. I'll look into it. I mean, you this isn't a convince me to play episode, but you have convinced me to at least look into Hades and Near Automata.
I like how I'm
So,
doing a better job of that when I'm not trying. And
uh,
then during our one convince me episode, you're like, nah,
no, you did such a good job during that episode.
whatever. Say
It's
you're
just the
third
game.
best.
Wow. Okay, rolling in at third is Prince Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. I thought Noctis was so cool, Sam, that I literally named a cat after him. That is where Nox got his name.
Really?
Yes, so Nox's full my cat, my black cat. His full name is Prince Noctis Felis.
It's not because you have to you remember him as Knox the fat one.
Nox is not the fat one, and we will not
That's what
get
I'm saying.
into.
He's
Yeah.
that's how you remember it.
Well, because the other ones, she's a big girl. That's okay.
I love Zidu.
I do too. She's so great. Anyway, yeah. So Noctis from Final Fantasy
That's great.
15.
Okay.
I think I jokingly say this, but I think I was like one of the only people who actually really liked Final Fantasy 15 at the beginning. It was rough. It was admittedly a little rough, but I played it and then I turned around, Sam, and then I played it again. And I've only done that with like fewer than 5 games in my life.
Wow. I always hear people say that they do that when games that they love, and I've never been compelled to do that.
I've only been compelled to do that. I mean, I can think of Dragon Age and Final Fantasy 15. That those are the only two I can think of that I've done that.
I'm excited when there's a game that I'm compelled to do that.
Yeah, it's another one that if it makes sense to play it together at some point, we'll do it. But I'm not overly compelled to add it. But let me get back to the character. Noctis is cool. He's a little moody, not quite as moody as some other Final Fantasy characters. I do love my moody boys, but a little bit more charming and cheerful than some other folks that I'll talk about later. Um, this is a character where there are some major time jumps, so you get to see them mature into the rather selfless leader that they are. When I played the game originally, he was the only party member you could control. I do think they've changed that now. I think you can control your other party members. It made him feel really special, though, that he was the one that you could control. Plus, the constant bouncing around and flying around that you get to do in Final Fantasy 15 is really beautiful and like insane looking. The character designs look fabulous, especially because they're coming up on being 10 years old and they just look incredible. It is a little bit, I say, like Japanese boy band esque, where your four main characters are bros and they all wear black and they drive a black car. It's a little tropey, but I love it. And they all four have such a deep like male bonding friendship where they're not being, at least my memory, maybe my memory's wrong, but I don't remember them being overly broy that it was cringy and there was no like homoeroticism or like I'm gonna make fun of you because you're being too kind to me right now. It was
Uh,
just like genuine male bonding because
wow.
your entire party is just these four, mostly it's
That's
these
got to
four
be rare,
guys.
especially if there's tropiness to it. You'd expect them to kind of fall back on some of those cliches.
I'm sure if I played it again, we would find that there's probably more tropiness to it. But my fond memory of playing it 8 years ago is that they were four friends. It's
Well, cool.
four good dude friends. The gameplay's a little hack and slashy, but I love that you constantly for Noctis, you're constantly changing the weapons and magics and hooking onto tall buildings and structures to then like pile drive your enemy basically to like go down on them with a sword. Man, the phrasing this is
Yeah,
terrible for
phrasing
both of
is something
those.
on this. I see why you liked it so much.
Wow, I loved it so much. Noctis.
No
Yeah,
homoeroticism at all.
no until I just made it that way, but he's a fantastic character and a tragic character as well. So
Well, fun.
it's one I might return to for fun, but I would not expect you to do that with me.
Well, cool. Um, I need. There's so many Final Fantasy games, and I need to play most of them. I told you, my good friend James, right? He's playing through all the Final Fantasies.
You did say that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Is
he's
he
up
playing
to
through them for the first time?
7 now. What's up?
Is he playing through them for the first time?
Yes,
Oh, awesome.
and he's up to 7, I think.
Oh, great.
Maybe he's to 8 by now. I don't know, but he's doing big things. But anyway,
Big things.
so
What's your third one?
my number three for me, Sam, is Cube from Live Alive. So I'm considering him a main because I did use him as my like first or primary character in the final chapter there, and so that's why I'm considering the main.
Yeah.
But there are, classically eight characters there in Live Alive, and any of them could be your main. But
Hmm.
yeah. So visually, though, he's this cute, round, very petite little robot. He has a red hat, glasses, and little wings on his side,
Oh,
and then he
he's.
gets around on roller skates.
I love him so much.
He's so cute, right? And he's got he doesn't speak, but he communicates with little melodies and beeps and boops like R2D2, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and despite that though, you kind of get a sense of his character, and he's very can somehow communicate that he's kind and caring and sweet. So he's part of the distant future setting here in Live Alive. So you have a lot of different time settings of each character, and so he's the furthest in the future, being a robot character there in space. And so his chapter is all about the sci-fi horror of it, and it's there's very little battling, but it's one of the more fun chapters that I enjoyed in its own right. Each one is just kind of its own flavor, and so
Yeah.
that's what makes that game so much fun. But this is the sci-fi horror one. Interestingly, apparently he was named after Stanley Kubrick,
Yep.
so it's not. I thought it was a just being funny because he is a sphere and they called him Cube, but it is not. I think we might have mentioned this in our prior episode, but Stanley Kubrick, who I believe was the director for Doctor Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is probably the connection, The
Hmm.
Shining, and A Clockwork Orange. And then kind of mechanistically or mechanically in the game,
Hmm.
um, he's one of the only healers, and that's one thing I always, I'm pretty. Most of my builds with teams have to include some sort of healer, so I generally include that. So I wanted to have somebody with more healing, but then he's like many of the characters in Live Alive, they have a wide breadth of attacks they can use and things. So he had magical attacks that were fire based and water based and earth based and some debuff abilities. So he had a lot of utility there, but
Yeah.
also the thing that was less common in other characters is that he could be a healer. And then
Hmm.
also he was just so darn cute. And then again, call back to my love of sci-fi. That's why he kind of pulled at my heartstrings there. So Cube gets my third place spot.
Cube is one of my favorite characters, also, especially when we're thinking about healers or well rounded healers. He's fantastic. Live Alive is one of my favorite games. Hearing you talk about Cube makes me want to drop everything that I'm doing and go play Live Alive again. It's incredible.
It's so good, and the remake is so nice. It's so well done.
It's so good. I will likely play it through it before the year's up again for like a third time.
Do it.
I probably will. But speaking of games I've played through quite a bit, we're gonna go on to my second place. And this is gonna probably be a little controversial. And I
Oh,
I don't even care
tell us in the
because
socials why
tell us in the
you don't
socials.
like
It's
this.
okay. So remember how I said I like my moody boys from my moody and broody boys from Final Fantasies? So I like my number two is Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, and I can literally hear the internet yelling at me right now.
It's good. Let's get up some controversy. Let's
Let's
drum it
stir
up.
it up. I have an obvious bias with this. Final Fantasy VIII was my first Final Fantasy that I played, so I know that I'm biased with it. I understand why folks don't like him. Squall is kind of a jerk in the beginning, and Squall finds it really hard to open up to other folks. But there are literal story points and character reasons for why he is the way that he is. And as the story unfolds, he starts to open up. I mean, Final Fantasy VIII really is a love story. It really is a romance story. So it makes perfect sense that he would be standoffish and more brooding and kind of a quote unquote badass. But he's not. He doesn't lean into the trope, or rather, the game doesn't allow him. I don't consider the game allows him to lean into the trope too much. He's the first to tote the infamous gun blade that we all know and that we all think is pretty iconic for the Final Fantasy series. He really, though this is a deep cut, but after the upgrade in 2019, he really is the best looking guy. And I'll post that meme if I need to. Renoa, I forget how we say her name, says to Squall during the dancing scene, "You're the best looking guy here," or something to that effect. And before the upgrade, his face looked like all the character models are the exact same for Parasite Eve. Like it's the same system
With no face.
with no face, and so the internet would always close up on his face that looked like a broken Picasso painting. But after the upgrade, you can see their beautiful facial structures. So he really is the best looking guy around after the upgrade. I also love that his sword can slice and shoot at the same time if you time the attack well. So there's like a little bit of a timed attack component with him in battle. You have to have him in your party until the party splits three and three, or unless you're playing a flashback. It's sci-fi. Sam, you like sci-fi. This is as about as sci-fi
Wait, how do you know that?
because you told me you like sci-fi.
Kidding. I've said it
I
like
know, like
this
multiple
episode.
times. Like there are a lot of Final Fantasy games that lean into science fiction, and some of them border on like fantasy and science fiction, or steampunk and science fiction. Final Fantasy VIII really is science fiction and romance. I
I'm
think you'd
laughing
like
because
it.
I found a picture of his old face.
It's so bad. Have you seen the upgrade, or do you see
Yeah,
the meme where it's
almost
right?
everything when you search it on Google Images is his updated face. And so I had to scroll for a while to find the old one. And it just kind of looks like some pixels thrown at a screen.
I know, but look how good the upgrade looks.
Oh, So fresh.
It's so fresh. So yeah, this moody and broody boy is my number two. I think he is charming, and there is a reason why he is broody. You don't really get a reason for why other tropish characters in Final Fantasy are the way that they are, but there are reasons why he's kind of a jerk face in the beginning.
Okay. Well, now
Yeah.
that's good to know. Well, very good. So that is your number two.
Yes.
And I will raise you with my number two,
Mm.
which, okay, it's another callback. I wanted to not have to include him because I've already had him in a top five list.
Wait,
But
really? Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
because he's one of my faves here. It is Oswald from
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler 2. And I'm gonna keep harping on this game too. It's probably my favorite RPG. Yeah, I can probably say that. Anyway, so Mr. Oswald was my main. You can also pick from any of the other eight characters for a main, but for me, I picked Oswald.
Yeah.
And I've lost you here on this side. Let me get you back there. Good. Anyway, so he is, yeah, a black mage. He's your classic mage there. He's got this long, dirty blonde hair with his big brown overcoat. He's a scholar of magic. He studies it as like a class in school, and it's almost like mathematics to him.
Hmm.
And the story really resonated with me. Anybody that recalls from our episode on top five mages would remember that he was on my list there. But his story really resonates with me because he loses his daughter and his wife early on, and I am now girl dad times two, so that hits me deep.
Oh.
And he's pretty much like Liam Neeson, badass, going to get you back, and spends time in a prison and then gets out and has to go find this guy that murdered his family. And so all that's fantastic in the story. Gameplay wise, I also really enjoyed what he brings to the table.
Hmm.
Um, a big part of the mechanics are finding weaknesses, and so his study foe ability allows you to immediately learn one or two weaknesses of your enemy off the bat. And then he's got a wide breadth of access to different magics: fire, ice, lightning, and then you can get more if you, depending on what other classes jobs that you equip for him. So
Hmm.
he can really do a lot there. And so I liked his story. I liked his kind of background. I like what he brings to the gameplay. All told, he's just top tier for me.
He is. I love the scholar class also in
Yeah.
Octopath.
It's
It
got a
did.
lot of fun things and a little twists to the normal mage archetype,
Do they have a speed up option yet for the Octopath games?
like speed up battle.
Yeah.
So you can speed up, yeah, like, but I
Cool.
don't think you can auto battle. I think you can just like speed up how fast the battle's going through, I believe.
I
But yeah,
might go back and play. It's because they're both such great games, and they're both games that I didn't finish because I thought for me, they overstayed their welcome just by a little bit.
they're
But
pretty
I
long.
also I they are pretty long, but I never utilized the speed up option, and that might
So
make
you can
me.
definitely, I'm almost positive you speed up during the battles.
Yeah,
But as far as outside of battle, I don't know if you can speed up like running around and stuff. Well, I
that's
think you can like
okay.
run faster, but
That's fine. I could play that again and speed up the battles though. The battles are also really fun
yeah, the battles are fun.
to play. So
But
I
there's a
don't
lot
know.
of battles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As a solid top four you have so far, man.
Well, before we get to our last top places, do you have any honorable mentions? Any ones that you wanted to include, but they didn't quite make the cut, DJ?
I do. I've got a number of honorable mentions. So, folks might be shocked to hear that Claude and Reyna from Star Ocean, the second story, are my honorable mentions. I love them both as protagonists, but I think they both. You'll hear about them later in other top five lists for sure, and I thought they fit those bills a little bit better than the top five main character. So that's why they're honorable mention, but they're not in my top five for this. I love the character Lita from Arafel. It's an indie game. Really, again, I guess I kind of like a strong-willed protagonist. So
Yeah,
there is Lucas from Mother 3, which go back and listen to that episode, folks, if you haven't, because it's an episode that I think Sam and I are really proud of for covering.
absolutely.
Gen, I think you pronounce it Gen from God, Growth, or De-Evolution. It's a SNES RPG that was never released here in the States, but there is an English translation online, and it's a really good English translation. Really fabulous game. Ren, or I go with the name Ren from Persona 5 Royal. He is a silent protagonist, but he just looks so cool. He's just so cool. The graphics are so cool. And I do love Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. I don't love him enough to put him in my top five, but I feel like if we don't mention him in our top fives, like we will get strung up by the RPG community. So I'm putting him here for safety, but I also genuinely do like him.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad you did that for us because I have played Final Fantasy VII though, so I could have done that too. I just
Yeah,
wasn't as drawn to them, I guess. But
yeah.
a few honorable mentions for me. I'll say Aya. I'm only a couple chapters in so far to Parasite Eve, but yeah, she is definitely endears you to herself, and she's very strong-willed and a lot of characteristics that I can appreciate. So I think by
Yeah.
the end, she'll move up. So I'm not quite there. A
Woo.
couple other ones I did wanted to call out. Just so we mentioned the silent protagonist thing earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how a silent protagonist would really make it into the top five just because they can't have any character growth or
I
whatever else.
know.
But I wanted to call out a few that I just liked a lot. So the Nahabino from
Mm-hmm.
SMT5, so your protagonist from SMT5, I just
Mm-hmm.
think they look really, really badass. It's kind of cool how you fuse with a demon when you get to the underworld.
Yeah.
And then I really loved SMT5 and all of that. So it's mostly just kind of the visuals though of the Nahabino and the way
Yeah.
you traverse the overworld there that I really appreciated. And then another one that I'll just call out because I think there's some fun things. Another silent protagonist, but in the RPG South Park games, like the Fractured But Whole, and then actually I think they do this in the Stick of Truth too, which I've played. You
Uh-huh.
play as the new kid with no name. You're just new kid, and you're the silent protagonist. And then they do a really classic kind of South Park, but a good job of making that a joke that you never speak, and it's a running gag. And so I think they play on that trope very well. And it makes it fun to be the new kid in town and also the silent protagonist.
You love those games. I think because you love them so much, we should play one of those South Park games.
You have to appreciate South Park humor, which is can be very crass.
Yeah.
But yes, but the thing is, my understanding is that Matt and Trey, the creators of South Park, are very big gamers,
Yeah.
and so at least for Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole, I think there's a lot of South Park games out there. But for those two, they were very involved,
Mm-hmm.
and so the gameplay and the systems and the storytelling and all that stuff is really well done.
Yeah. I I will add it to our list of potential 2025 games. I think we need to do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Those were honorable mentions. Now we're going to go to our first place. Top five main characters. My first place, top five main character is Hero from Lunar Eternal Blue slash Lunar Eternal Blue Complete. Talk about heart. Hero has it. I said that Aurora has maybe the most heart, but then I forgot that Hero exists. And he just exudes the most charming, infectious personality for a game. He is adventurous and kind, but not sickeningly, or I think I said cloyingly sweet or anything like that. He is a young man who loves to go on adventures and quickly develops a sense of loyalty to a girl that you meet called Lucia. I won't give it away. And he will go to the ends of the earth, literally, to protect her. But not in a way that she needs protection from a human. It's not in a weird sexist way like you need my protection. He just genuinely falls for her and he wants to be there for her in any way. It's kind of another romance story in a lot of ways. I think I'm a sucker for video game romance is what I'm discovering about this top five list.
I think I already knew that
I'm glad that
about
you
you.
know. I'm glad you know. I'm different. That's what you said. You know. So often in these old school turn-based games, the main character can be like milk toast or boring, even if they aren't a silent protagonist. But like no one would ever say that about Hero in the Lunar games. He's such a step up from the first protagonist in Lunar One, whom I love, but originally was a silent protagonist and didn't really have much personality. Hero is anything but boring. He's also a great character to have in battle. He's great with the sword, he's great with the boomerang. He begins with wind magic, though there's other magics that he can equip later on. He presents himself as this selfless leader, and every character, every main character especially that comes into the party, becomes a better person because they know Hero.
Oh wow.
We could all use a little hero in our lives.
Oh wow, look what you did there.
Look what I did there. I know the silly running joke is like we should add this game to the podcast at some point,
Yeah, we're just gonna keep saying that. That'll be the joke.
but I would take away every game I've said to add to the podcast to play Lunar Eternal Blue with you.
You take
It's
all those mini games that we've said that we'll add and probably never get to.
Yep, I would scrap them all to have you experience one of even the first Lunar game instead. If you wanted to play Lunar Silver Star instead of Eternal Blue, because there are really charming non-main character in the first game, and you don't need to know that much about the first game to play the second game. It takes place 1,000 years later, so it's not that important. And I could
There's
give
no
you a 30
recurring
second spiel.
characters.
It's not that important. I won't say there's no recurring characters, but I could give you a 30-second recap and you wouldn't feel like you missed much,
Okay, okay.
kind
Well,
of
I
thing.
I am down. Um, I know we're running longer than we probably thought, but quick
Yeah.
aside, when you said go to the end of the earth, it did remind me. So in my 5-year-old daughter asked me about that the other day. She was like, "What's the end of the earth? Where is the end of the earth?"
Oh.
And so then I was like, "Oh, it's a ball though. It's like a sphere. So you just go around. It's not." She's like, "What do you mean?" So then I took a wiffle ball and I took a D&D fig. We'll call it, and I took some masking tape and I stuck it to the side of the ball, and then I showed how it would walk around and it would just get back to the same place. And you'd
Oh.
never get to the end. It would always keep going.
That's cute.
And then I thought I did a great job. And then she just ran away and it's like, okay, bye, daddy.
Well, that's all she needed, you
Yep, that's
know.
all she needed.
Till the end of the earth. Well, you gave a great example of going to the end of the earth, and Hero is a hero and does that for Lucia and all his party members.
Well, very good. Well, the end of our episode is coming up soon after I talk about
Nice.
my number one. So I thought about this a bit, and I thought the more I thought about it, I actually felt pretty comfortable putting this person at number one, and I'll explain why. And so
Hmm.
my number one is Noah from Xenoblade 3. So Noah is pretty much the male protagonist character. He's part of the Kavesi group who are fighting the Agnes group. There's kind of these two groups that are battling forever in this war in the world of Ionios. Visually, he has this jet black hair with a high pony, and he's very thin, sharp features. He wears, what he can wear changes based on the job class you equip him with, but his normal job class being like the sword fighter. He's in this red jacket that's very Zoolander esque. He plays the flute, so that's kind of badass. And he plays the flute because he is an offseer. So the offseers in Xenoblade, there's a lot of death. People only live 10 years in this world, and they, or at the most,
Yeah.
they can get killed beforehand. So there's a lot of people who are being, called to the afterlife. And so that's what the offseers do is they help ferry people to the afterlife by, playing their instruments, and he plays the flute. So, personality wise, I would say he's pretty tropey anime, the positive protagonist for the most part. There is an underlying darkness in the sense that he's always around death and he's the overseer, always, taking people into that overworld. And he's has to be strong though, and has to be the leader with all this death surrounding them. Um, let's see, but then he does his job well, but then he starts questioning the whole world and this setup of people only live 10 years and we're fighting this other group, we're locked in this forever battle. And so that starts to kind of weigh at him. I'll go into a little bit more about why in a second, but
Hmm.
gameplay wise though, he is like a sword fighter class, mostly strong with his sword attacks and sometimes critical builds and those kind of things. He's got access to this historical sword, the Lucky Seven sword, which can sometimes do a one-shot insta kill, which is nice and great for farming, by the way, sometimes for that EXP. But okay, so that all that sounds pretty standard, and it is. But
Hmm.
I guess the reason I think that he would take my top spot would be that story-wise, and this will be some spoilers here. So if you don't want spoilery stuff for Xenoblade, then maybe don't keep listening. But anyway, so they find out that they are basically being reincarnated over and over again, and reliving their lives or different versions of their lives over and over again. And so even though he starts out so tropey and he starts out so okay, we've seen this before, you find out that he's lived so many lives. He's basically done all the things that he could do and reacted in so many in every way you might react in these circumstances. So he's been, he's tried a lot to fight against it. And then you find out over time too that there's a version of him that's one of the bad guys who ended up being shown by the main bad guy all the times that he's died and failed, and was like, look, you can't beat me, just join me. And so there was an iteration of him that decides, okay, based on these circumstances, if I would have joined the bad guys. And
Yeah.
then late, but also there's this love story between there with him and Mio, and it's like most of the time they still come together. At one point they have a kid, and like that's part of their story, like during one of the timelines. And it's like he lived any way you could see it playing out in this weird world where these two forces fight each other through eternity and everybody dies every 10 years. Every way that could go, he's lived it. And so that was kind of really interesting to me, and then he has to find a way out of this loop and what's different about his current self. It's maybe a little um like sci-fi and the matrixy, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I really appreciated that. So you get to see, because I do think that we're all, in a lot of ways, we are, victims of our circumstances, and there's a lot of different ways that we could evolve and grow and react. And so he is the sum of all parts, I guess, and has done it all.
Cool. I
Anyway,
didn't I didn't know all that about him either, so that's really cool. I
so
actually
maybe I
like.
just spoiled it for you too. I'm
No,
sorry.
I kind of like that you spoiled it for me. Saw some of that coming when I was playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The, not because they didn't do a good job of hiding it. I've just played a lot of games, you
fair.
know.
Yeah, fair.
But that's really cool just to know that it actually went that route.
Yeah, no. So it was good.
Noise. So those are our top 5 main character protagonists, at least in 2024. Maybe we'll do this again at the end of next year, and we may have 5 new main characters that we find really appealing, and we've got to talk about them. Maybe they'll all come from new games.
Or we could just do five new from 2024.
We
Five new
really
from
could.
2024.
We really could. Samuel, what are you playing right now?
So I am going to finish Parasite Eve. Definitely want to do that.
Nice.
I did do a side dip into Pikmin 4 and I finished it, but there's a few post game things you can do. And I
Okay.
actually really kind of liked it. So I might do some post game stuff there.
Yeah.
And then I talked about Xenoblade 3 and how much I loved it, but I have not yet played Future Redeemed, the DLC for that, let alone the other two games or their DLC. I haven't. So I'm a little bit of a poser there for Xenoblade, but I do
Whatever.
want to play the DLC for Xenoblade 3, and I have it installed and downloaded. So I am maybe going to jump into that. There's so many ones I want to go to next, but definitely finish Parasite Eve and then potentially those other two.
Awesome. Great.
How about you?
I'm playing. I'm trudging my way through Tokyo Xanadu X Plus on Switch. I'm gonna finish it, but it is getting a little tropey right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. It's really quite fine, and I genuinely mean that. It's a fine game. I just finished Parasite Eve, and I'm gonna start Costume Quest tonight because it's the other
Oh yeah.
short, kind of spooky, children-like spooky game that we're gonna review. Woo! In October. I'm also my non-RPG game that I'm playing right now is a cozy game called Coffee Talk,
Oh, I've
where
heard of the Coffee Dog games. You like it?
I love it. I absolutely love it. The music is great. The pixel art is beautiful. You're talking to people and making them drinks. It's probably not for you, and that is okay.
Pikmin 4's cozy game is as cozy as I get.
I normally don't go cozy with my games either, but I wanted to give this one a go, and it's exactly what I needed. I just went camping this weekend, and
Oh yeah, that's what you should have talked about in the banter section.
oh, it's fine. It's fine. But you know, at the end of the night when I was like trying to go to bed, I was like, well, let me just like make a couple drinks for my silly little characters. It was great because it has lo-fi music, so it was a wonderful way to like lull myself to bed.
Oh, fun. Well, cool.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
Very, very good.
Well, y'all listeners out there, you can find us at Turn-Based Besties on Instagram. And did you know you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts? That's a ton of different places, folks. Now go to our socials and let us know who your favorite main character was from your favorite RPGs. You can also email us comments and or questions at turnbasedbesties@gmail.com. Thank you to everyone who's following us on Instagram. Girl, we are so close to 100. We're going to break those triple digits before the end of the year. We're going to do it. 100 or bust.
I believe everybody should believe.
We're going to do it. We're going to get to 100. I know that seems like a low number, but I'm very excited to get to it, and we're going to on Instagram. That is Turn-Based Besties at Instagram.
There you go. Give it the shout out. So, like we say, when everything in the world points right, maybe go left and see what you find. I'm Sam.
And I am DJ, and this has been another episode of Turn-Based Besties. Bye.
Bye.